You're listening to AI PRISM from Seoul Economic Daily.
It's Monday, May 18. I'd like to share some thoughts about global investors. Today we're analyzing three really crucial converging macro signals for your Asia-exposed portfolios.
Right. There's a lot to unpack for anyone managing regional exposure right now.
Exactly. So we're looking at the geopolitical ambiguity coming out of the US and China, the severe stress we're seeing in global sovereign bonds, and, well, this historic liquidity event on the horizon.
Yeah, that liquidity vacuum is going to be massive.
It really is. But let's start with the May 14 US-China summit over in Beijing. I mean, it ended with absolutely zero joint communiqué.
Not at all.
Right, and both sides released these readouts that, frankly, they contradict each other completely. Trump claimed that tariffs weren't even discussed, while China, they're insisting a reciprocal reduction agreement was reached.
That's staggering disconnect.
Yeah, it's like concluding a merger where both sides immediately walk out and announce entirely different term sheets. So as a portfolio manager, how do you even price that in?
Well, you essentially have to price in extreme ambiguity. I mean, look at the $14 billion U.S. weapons sale to Taiwan.
Right.
Trump openly framed that transaction as a quote-unquote negotiating card. And when you use Taiwan as direct leverage like that, neutrally speaking, you aren't just negotiating with Beijing.
You're putting the whole region on edge.
Exactly. You are threatening the stability of the entire Asian AI and semiconductor supply chain. And you add in the unresolved Iran conflict.
Which is keeping oil hovering right near $100 a barrel.
Yeah, precisely. That keeps energy costs elevated and creates this recipe for sustained systemic friction.
Well, let's actually follow that thread on oil because, $100 crude means really sticky inflation. And that sticky inflation leads us directly to our second signal, this synchronized global sovereign bond sell-off.
Yeah, the repricing we're seeing right now is historic. I mean, it's driven by that oil inflation combined with pretty clear signals of fiscal expansion.
Yeah.
The U.S. 30-year Treasury just broke 5.1%.
Which is the highest it's been since 2007, right?
Right. And it's not just the U.S. Look at Japan. The Japanese government bond, the JGB, that just hit a 29-year high.
Wow. Well, I want to zoom in on the local impact here, specifically the Korean market.
Yeah.
Because the 3-year Korean Treasury yield just hit 3.766%.
Which is a massive divergence from the central bank.
Exactly. The Bank of Korea's policy rate is sitting way down at 2.5%. When I see that gap, I'm having flashbacks to the fall of 2022, the Legoland incident.
Right. The theme park developer default.
Yeah, where that local government guarantor defaulted and, the credit markets essentially just froze overnight. Can you compare this current pressure to that benchmark for credit crunch stress?
Well, we aren't seeing an overnight freeze like that Legoland default triggered, but this slow burn pressure is arguably worse. Because when market yields pull that far away from the 2.5% policy rate,
the actual cost of capital just skyrockets.
Precisely. It skyrockets for domestic corporations, regardless what the central bank says.
And that directly exacerbates the Korea discount, doesn't it? Like that chronic undervaluation of Korean equities.
It does. If domestic borrowing costs soar, your equity multiples naturally compress.
Okay, so if sovereign debt is repricing aggressively and local equities are suppressed, where is all this institutional capital actually going?
It's flowing right into the June 12th SpaceX IPO.
Right, the liquidity vacuum. Let's look at the mechanics of this because it's wild. They're doing a 5-for-1 stock split. The target valuation is $1.75 trillion, which is approximately 2,650 trillion won.
It's a massive scale.
Huge. And BlackRock is reportedly eyeing an anchor position of $5 to $10 billion, so around 7.5 to 15 trillion won. But wait, SpaceX has that notorious dual-class governance structure, right?
Yeah, the founder heavily concentrates the voting power.
So why would BlackRock put up to $10 billion into a company where they have virtually no say?
Because at that level, they're basically buying market beta, not board seats.
Oh, I see.
The institutional demand for these dominant tech monopolies just outweighs those severe governance risks. But honestly, the more fascinating angle for your portfolio is the retail side, specifically the Seoul-hakemi.
Ah, right. The Korean retail investors who heavily trade foreign stocks. But aren't they shut out of this IPO because of that 15-day regulatory filing delay in Korea?
They are completely locked out of the initial allocation, yes. But you can't underestimate their secondary market impact. Right now, retail U.S. holdings in Korea exceed $200 billion.
Wait, $200 billion?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just to put that in perspective, that surpasses the peak levels of capital we saw during the RIA era.
Okay, the RIA, so that's the Korean Capital Repatriation Tax Incentive area.
Exactly. Even with those massive government tax incentives back then, we didn't see this much capital. So while these retail investors missed the IPO pricing, that $200 billion pool means they'll drive massive flows the second SpaceX hits the secondary market.
Wow, so it's just this tidal wave of capital shifting out of traditional markets.
It is. And, it leaves us with a really provocative question to think about.
What's that?
Well, if Japanese yields keep rising, which incentivizes their money to stay home, and domestic capital from places like Korea repatriates just to chase these Western megatech expansions, who is actually left to buy the Western sovereign debt that funds it all?
That's today's AI PRISM Global Investors. This episode was produced with AI assistance based on Seoul Economic Daily reporting and reviewed by a human editor. AI PRISM is a Juan Ifra award-winning series. We'll be back tomorrow.
You've been listening to AI PRISM from Seoul Economic Daily.